Over the last year, Book of Hours has been there for you during the most challenging times of our lives. As an artist collaboration, we've given shape and depth to some of the most complicated topics of our time, making them easily accessible for those who seek to understand. We've given voice and space to the stories that often go ignored. Please take a moment to consider being a patron, make a donation, or join Rockfin. Thank you.
Lonely spire crawling on the floor. Lonely spire longing for love once more.
Hello, this is Julie and JP over here at Book of Hours. Welcome to Bookmark. This is our new weekly podcast that we plan on doing from this point forward to put a little more content on our page, but also to sort of recap the week's events because things seem to be happening
On a very fast pace, right?
at a very fast pace.
We certainly can't keep up in the essay format.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
And there we are.
that was a year ago today.
That was a year ago exactly today. To
Can
the
you
date.
believe it?
To this date, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this for a year now.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Just making sure
My
the microphone
goodness.
is
If you
on.
guys can hear us, let us know. If you
Yeah.
can't, let us know. Wow, a whole year of Bookmark, a whole year of podcasting and video essaying and meeting new people and all the changes that have taken place. Wow, it's amazing.
I agree. I was really surprised. I looked at the date. I knew we were coming up on the anniversary, and then I looked at the date today from the first show, and it was exactly the 29th.
Right.
But we used to do it on a Sunday,
Right.
a Saturday or a Sunday. I think it was we started on
So
Sundays.
we kept switching days.
We finally decided on Tuesdays because it works with our schedule better, and we can still have like some time off from other things. So
Right.
now that we've added to Bookmark has been added to our video work, and now we've added yet another show called Pullquote.
Yeah.
We we've got a lot going on, but
We really do.
so we decided to move Bookmark to Tuesdays around this time. We're going to try to find some consistency with that. But let me see here. Um,
Let us know if you guys can hear us. Give us some feedback.
yeah.
Um, we're just making sure that everything is working out
So we got a
as far as audio goes.
yeah, and we got a lot of things going on. I'm sorry, you were sharing. Did you share
Yeah,
everything
I'm
you need?
good.
Okay,
It's all
great.
good.
All
Yeah.
right, cool. Um, so yeah, aside from the 1 year anniversary, I don't even remember what we talked about that first time, but we were in a different set, different studio, and if you'll notice, we had some golden poppies in the background. I've been cutting those and bringing them into the house lately too, because this is the time of year they get a little leggy and kind of crazy, and I have to just start doing some weeding.
Yes.
And
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, so it's time to bring the poppies inside. Um, we also wanted to talk to you about the show Pull Quote Pullmark. That's the hybrid between Bookmark and Pull Quote. Um, Pull Quote. We're going to be on the air tomorrow too, around 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And we're going to be with Lynn Taylor. But let's show you. We want to talk about like some people that are coming up this in the next couple of months. We've got some people booked and ready to go. We've got Lynn Taylor tomorrow, and she's an education activist associated with researching Common Core education. And tomorrow we're going to talk about STEM and STEAM education, which is a parallel type of education to Common Core. Um, on the 2nd of July, that's this Friday, we're going to play a pre-recorded interview with Guy Crittenden, our friend in Canada, writer, activist, and he has a website called Hypnosis, and you can see it there, Hypnosis, spelled like Gnostic. um, on the 6th of July, we're going to have Eva Bartlett. She's an independent journalist in Gaza, and her site is
Her
in
site
Gaza.
is in Gaza and beyond.
Yeah.
And on the 14th, we'll have Helen Buniski. She is a wonderful violin player, and also writes for the RT Network. I recently retweeted an interview that she did with Chris Hedges. And she's also an independent journalist, also known as Helen of Destroy. Jeff Kay is actually a friend of mine. We both lived in San Francisco about the same time, but he is a commentator, a blogger, and a psychologist, and that's putting it mildly. He's got an extraordinary background, and we're very excited about bringing him on. You can look him up and discover who he is. Hervoge is the host of Geopolitics and Empire, and many people that follow us are huge fans of this show as well. So we are really excited to have Hervoge on. Hiroyuki Hamada is an artist, a writer, a commentator. You'll often hear him on the Aesthetic Resistance podcast with John Stepling and Cory Morningstar. And Sean Gibson is a local. He's a friend of ours. He is the director of the Josh Gibson Foundation. He is the great grandson of the ball player Josh Gibson. You can look that up. Andrew Kaufman, I'm sure you've all heard of him.
Oh, nobody's heard of him.
He's recently done a podcast with Rosemary Frey, who was also on our show recently. He's a psychologist. He will have lots of things to say about what's been happening in the last year. And of course, Vanessa Beeley, independent journalist, has her own site called The Wall Will Fall. You'll often see her on The Last American Vagabond. And then, of course, our friends, Judith Turner and Ramona Elizabeth, who live in Florida. They're activists, and they are sort of like urban planners, and they run a really cool market called Southside Fresh Market.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk to them about how other people can plan out their communities as well as we get further and further into like sustainable development.
Well, like us, they live in a food desert.
Bring it back to us.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so like us, yeah. So like I said, they live in a food desert, and so one of their responses was to bring about this fresh market. It's a farmers market, and Judith shared a video of it the other day, and so that got us interested, and we contacted her, and so she's going to be on the show in October.
Right.
We've got some other people in the works. We didn't.
Dr. Northrop.
Yeah, Dr. Northrop.
We just confirmed with her today, so that's good. Yeah, there are some other people that are planning on coming on board too, and we'll update the list as that happens.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we're really excited. The last year has been really amazing. Like I said, this is our 1 year anniversary for Bookmark, which is our podcast where we sort of recap the week's events. And Lynn, thank you for the congratulations. Thank you for that. We're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, and we'll all be getting a good education about the STEM programs in our local schools. I think the news, that's coming down the pike right now, this very minute is pretty. I think we should address it right now, and it's something that I shared on our community and art page, which is on our Facebook page, or which is on our Facebook channel. And what it is that every NATO ship has occupied the Black Sea right now. So just very quickly, what I'd like to do is read through something that was sent that's been trending throughout social media.
Okay.
NATO exercise of Provocation Sea Breeze 2021 begins in the Black Sea, featuring 32 countries. On June 28th, the NATO exercise Sea Breeze began, also including Ukraine. In the Black Sea region, NATO is strengthening deterrence and defense with joint exercises and maritime patrols, such as the upcoming exercise Sea Breeze. This is a good example to how allies and partners provide unique training opportunities. designed to enhance readiness, improve collaboration, and interoperability in the Black Sea region. Standing NATO Maritime Group 2 will take part in the exercise, which will begin on Monday, June 28th, and run through July 23rd. So let's pay attention to those dates. It began yesterday, June 28th, and it will run through July 23rd. So for about a month, they will be occupying the Black Sea. What we have are the following countries: Albania, Australia, Brazil, Bulgaria, Canada, Denmark, Egypt, Estonia, France, Georgia, Greece, Israel, Italy, Japan, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Morocco, Norway, Pakistan, Poland, Romania, Senegal, Spain, South Korea, Sweden, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom, and of course the United States. Um, so, what we're looking at is the largest maritime exercise in history, occupying the Black Sea right now. I think that this is something that we should, at least give it a nod. We should at least acknowledge that it's happening. Many things that have gone on over the last year of our lives, including us, have preoccupied our attention and sort of put us in a hypnotic trance regarding, COVID-19 or the Great Reset or the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Internet of Bodies, Internet of Things. All of these things have, they're very real, and they do need to be unveiled, and they do need to be covered. But there's also, other stuff going on which absolutely directly does affect our lives in very real ways. If
Mhm.
you have 5,000 ships, and what did they say? What did I list off? What is it, like 32 countries?
Yeah, something like that.
Something
Yeah,
like that,
including.
occupying the Black Sea right now, in an historic move. Like, we've never seen this much occupation of
Well,
maritime vessels in the history of the world.
yeah, I mean,
Kind of a big deal.
yeah, it is. It is kind of a big deal. I mean, even though it's war exercises, and those are recognized as not hostile activity, a British ship did wander into Russian waters, and Russia fired a warning salvo to keep them, out of that territory. This is also, so it's not a big deal, and it is a big deal, right?
Right.
Because
It's an
even though it's
exercise.
an exercise, it is an exercise in a hot spot. The
Right.
Crimea has been an issue for a number of years now, with the annexation of I forget the name of that particular section of Crimea, was annexed by Russia. There was a whole contentious thing that went along with that, and like NPR made a big deal out of it. I was listening to them back then. Um, and made Russia look like the aggressors, when really I think there were people in that region of Crimea that wanted to be part of Russia. They were part of Russia before, and when the Ukraine gained their independence, and I don't remember. I believe they left the Russian Federation at that point, but I don't recall. All the same, they were a former Soviet bloc nation, and the problem was is that this particular part of the Ukraine was connected to the mainland, where Russia was. So I mean, they had to cross a bridge to get back over to like Ukraine, right? So the people that lived there identified as Russian. They spoke Russian, but politically, geopolitically, it was a real flashpoint and a bone of contention with the West, and then which led to NATO doing a lot of saber rattling, and lots of political posing, and things of that nature. So it's been a hot spot. So NATO knows that, and there's a reason that they're there doing an exercise.
Right. Um, so I think that I think that when we have somebody like Vanessa Beeley on, and by
Hmm.
the time we have her on, this of course
We'll
the
probably,
exercise will have ended, but we should still talk about it. We should still, and who knows what's going to come
well,
up
I think,
between now and then.
yeah, I think
You
Eva
know,
also can address it because she living in Russia right now.
she
Okay,
can
yeah.
address that
So
as well.
so we'll have some experts, some people who actually know what they're talking. No.
I know, right? Well, I mean, we have a general
Yeah.
idea.
We tend to follow things and analyze the situation. We aren't necessarily experts in that particular, like, and military isn't necessarily our wheelhouse, but we do look at it and bring it to your attention,
Right,
because a lot of these things don't always come up in everybody's feed.
right. Just very quickly, I wanted to bring up a blog piece that I wrote in January of this year,
Hmm. Okay.
and we'll talk about the various wars that we are undergoing right now from a creative's perspective. You know, so just really quickly, we'll bring up the
There
blog
we go.
piece I wrote.
Yeah.
Um, it's called "The Circle Is Complete."
Hmm.
You can go to book-of-hours.com and then choose blog. And if you just type in the search criteria circle, this piece will come up. It's from January of 2021. And I talk about four wars. I talk about an economic war, an existential war, class war, and then, of course, the potentiality for hot war. So, but there is another war that we're also experiencing, a fifth war, which is an ideological war. And so, you know, the point of this was to also talk about that as well, in that you'll have various factions on the various sides have their heroes that they lift up, and it causes um, this ideological war where people start to fracture and splinter apart. This is stuff that I talked about, you know, at the very beginning of all of this, that we were going to see. Not only were we going to see a fracture of society because, certain people would flat out refuse to, even acknowledge the COVID narrative. And then certain people would fall down and totally believe everything about it. And so we're already seeing the fracturing within the family dynamic and friends of people who are, you know, going to get, say the COVID shot, and other people that aren't. So we're seeing that fracture. But we're also going to see, well, we're seeing it right now, even a more fracturing or splintering off of, whether you're on the right or the left. Those contingents will also start to fracture. And that's an ideological war, and it usually takes place when people start to lift up the voices of the experts, the so-called experts, or the whistleblowers, or the alt journalists, or the researchers. So that's a pretty common thing in sort of a wartime scenario as well, where you fracture society. I think, there are days when I say it feels to me that COVID-19 is cover for a hot war, because in October of 2019, which was talked about in the article that we just showed you, China took over the operations at the port of Haifa, which is located in Israel. So, and the United States Navy's Sixth Fleet had been docked at the port of Haifa for a very long
Well,
time.
they established that port for that Sixth Fleet, or the Sixth Fleet was established in conjunction with that port.
With that port. So
Hmm.
the only reason that port
That was back in the 50s, I believe. Yeah.
exists in the first place is to hold the U.S. Navy's Sixth Fleet. So in October of 2019, and we all remember October of 2019 being um, the wartime scenario, or I'm sorry, the simulation scenario for a so-called pandemic.
Did you
So
get your plushie from Event
right,
201?
from Event 201.
Yeah.
So it's ironic. It feels a lot like every little thing that has taken place regarding the COVID narrative has been a huge cover and a huge distraction for some of these more um, geopolitical um, situations. So Kevin says he can barely hear us.
We'll talk louder. I think we have some
Yeah,
white noise in the background.
it might be the white noise in the
Yeah,
background that we
yeah.
have.
So that might be canceling some of our
Oh,
sound.
are we?
Yeah,
Are we?
yeah, we are.
We're on this. Okay.
Yeah, we're
So
good.
let us know if you're having trouble hearing us.
So thank you, Kevin. Yeah, let us know if you can hear us a little better. We'll try also to speak up a little bit.
Yeah. So, in October of 2019, China won the bid to control the operations at the port of Haifa, which meant that the long-standing Sixth Navy fleet U.S. Navy fleet had to skedaddle out of there.
Right.
They had to hightail it out of there. And then you had and now all of a sudden you have that same fleet, along with many fleets, occupying the Black Sea.
Right.
So, I think we should pay attention to this as well. This is kind of feeling a little bit like a precursor to a hot war. I am not a reactionary person. I tend to take everything pretty cool, and I don't, want to say something that isn't true, but when you have China taking over the operations at the port of one of our so-called allies, Israel, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think also thinking about like they relocated across the Mediterranean to a port in Italy. Wasn't that where was that? It was.
well, that was in. So it's right across. So the port
Yeah,
of
yeah. But which
Haifa
port
is
was it?
here, and then Italy is like right there. It's like
Right.
right across the Mediterranean.
But it was but it was a port that was mostly for tourism, and those conveniently with COVID-19, all those
Oh, Venice? Are you
Venice,
talking
yeah,
Venice?
Venice.
Yeah.
So all the cruise liners left the port of Venice because of COVID, and then the Sixth Fleet conveniently slipped in there. So I don't know. I'm not saying anything in particular, but there are some weird correlations that are going on. And now that they are actually the Sixth Fleet is conducting war activities, or what was it called? Sorry, war games or war
It's an
exercises.
exercise.
Right.
It's called Operation Sea
Breeze, right? Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like Julie said. I mean, there's potential there, and I think there was also a hot war that we didn't know about that was going on back in like around January, like right around the time of the.
The reason I wrote the blog post.
Right. Oh, you did mention that. Okay. Yeah, I was looking up another story, and I'm sorry. Yeah.
I wrote the blog post. Now
it was in January, right?
The blog post is in January, but what's happening in the South China Seas is that the United States wants access to the South China Seas because of its oil-rich content. Again, this isn't my wheelhouse at all. This isn't what we do,
Right.
but we feel that these kinds of things, these kinds of conflicts that are happening, that the United States is either instigating or is a part of, should be addressed. We feel that it's important.
Yeah.
That it's addressed.
Okay. All right. So we'll see. I mean,
we'll see.
We just have to see. I mean, there's a lot of saber rattling between the U.S. and Russia and China, and I think that also this connects up to the G7 that meeting that took place pretty recently, where there was some snubbing going on to Russia and vice versa during the G7 between Putin and Biden. So these things are geopolitical stages, and we have to just watch to see what happens next, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next item that I wanted to bring up was something that I came across yesterday. I get this email every day, and and I think you're responsible, but the morning report from the New York Times.
Oh yeah.
And I look at it sometimes, and sometimes I don't. I just because they, uh, and this one was especially gag-inducing. Um, and it was about basically the fact that, well, there were a couple things that stood out to me, and one of them was it was basically, the headline was the problem with Red America's COVID problem, basically. And they said there was a what do you call it, a survey done.
Okay.
And most people in Tennessee stated that they believed that the COVID pandemic was over, and the New York Times report here in this email said it most certainly is not. So yeah, so there's lots of propaganda, but that's not what I really wanted to talk to you about. Something else caught my attention um, in this, and they were basically under more on the virus. A point here says drug overdoses have surged during the pandemic. Really? You think? I think like most of the people that listen to us have listened to other people, and we've all been talking about this, but the New York Times had to catch up. In response, the Biden administration is embracing something called harm reduction instead of abstinence. And there's a link to that. And I thought, okay, what's that all about? So let me bring up the screen here. And I didn't bring it up. Oh, wait, it's a picture. So hang on a second. There we are. So helping drugs users survive, not abstain, harm reduction gains federal support, which is really weird, I think, because what this is, and you can try to read the article. It's under a paywall, so it's hard to get to. You can get a free account, whatever, but what they're doing is that they're creating a situation in which people are getting clean needles and clean equipment, and they have a machine. Some of these centers have a machine that allows them to check the material, the drug, to see if it has any foreign substances that might cause a poisoning or like basically hurt them, kill them. They call it overdosing, but I think that we can call it something else. Now, I don't have a problem with this kind of activity. I think that having a center for people to drop in is fine. So let me bring us back and just kind of talk about this a little bit.
Can you bring up the chat too?
Yeah.
I'm asking people to let us know about the volume.
Yeah.
Let us know about the volume if you can hear us okay. I know we don't have a lot of people watching right now.
But we want to make sure that we're speaking to you. We do have some white noise in the background that might be canceling some of our sound. So
yeah, we checked it though, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't an issue before.
So okay, so what's going on is during the pandemic last year, a lot of these centers were closed, and these centers also allow for community. They also allow for meetings, like 12-step program type meetings, and for people to talk and help with their addiction issues. Okay. They can also get alternatives to heroin. At the same time, they can get clean needles, and they can get, okay, loud enough. Okay, great. Thank you, Ozark Renew.
Thank you, Ozark Renew.
They can get clean needles, and they can, have things tested, and et cetera, et cetera. The problem is that what's going on is they're replacing this alternative, or this additional service. Okay, I think that it's something that helps the community, but they're replacing that with, how do I put it? It's becoming the means of dealing with illicit drug use,
right?
As opposed to trying to get people off of the drugs
right.
By other means that I mentioned a moment ago. They're just saying, oh, it's okay. you can just keep using that drug, and we'll stand by. But here's some clean materials and some clean needles and things like that. So we don't want you to get HIV, and we don't want you to overdose.
It sounds good.
And it sounds good. See, again, a lot of these types of programs are often couched in progressive language and progressive terms, but oftentimes they have a much different type of sinister sort of
what it is
yeah.
the drug addiction industrial complex. If you are a drug addict, if you are addicted to drugs, usually you are addicted to drugs because of job loss or because of mental illness that isn't properly treated. uh, Typically people don't just wake up one morning and say, I choose to be an addict. There are usually outside circumstances that cause addiction problems. Abuse, you know, terrible stress in your life because of, a job situation. Maybe you're at a very stressful job. There's a lot of people in corporate America that are addicted to drugs. There's a lot of people who are, unhoused, that are addicted to drugs as well. It's usually outside circumstances or past abuse that has led them to addiction.
Mm-hmm.
What the harm reduction scenario does is, instead of actually treating the source of the addiction, which is, say, job loss,
Mm-hmm.
or being unhoused,
or abuse. Right.
or stressful job situation, instead of looking at that, what the harm reduction scenario says is, well, we'll go ahead and financialize the addiction. We will build clinics for the drug users to come and do their drugs safely. We will invest in all sorts of apparatus,
Right.
needles, syringes, all the things that you need in order to have a safe experience taking the drug.
Right.
This is not anything at all to do with getting people off drugs and getting them back into a place in life where they are not dependent on the drug in order to feel better or mask or cover up whatever issues caused the drug addiction to begin with.
Right.
So this is the financialization of the drug addictive community, just like there's a financialization of the homeless. So in San Francisco, these two industries, the drug addict industrial complex, I call it, and the homeless industrial complex, make millions of dollars a year, and nothing is done for the people.
And we've seen it up close.
Been involved in it, kind of blew the whistle a little bit on it years ago, especially in the homeless industrial complex, where you have services and wraparound services like the San Francisco Tenants Union or the Homeless Advocacy Project. They have a nice, well-staffed, office full of lawyers and full of, paralegals that will happily take your information while they make $100,000 a year or more, but nothing is actually done for the tenants whose rights have been violated.
Right.
Well, it's the drug addict industrial complex took their cue from the homeless industrial complex and said, what a great way to make money. And what a great way to financialize human beings.
And this is done through impact investments, right? So what I did notice in that article, and I want to talk about it a little bit more, is one of the things they said was that Congress passed, a bill to set aside a bunch of, well, not pass a bill, but they were able to set aside a bunch of money that allowed them to that allowed them to pay for these services. But see, that money doesn't go to pay for the services directly. What that does is it pays into the impact investment projects. Okay, so the projects then collect money from investors, they collect money from the government, and then they pay services and service providers to implement these projects. And then the investors get the money back. The government will pay into it, but it's the investors that get money back. Normal citizens don't really benefit from this, and I doubt that the people who are
Right.
receiving the services are benefiting from it much either, other than the upfront um, uh, items and contact that they get in the first place. Now, the thing about this article, and Julie touched on this, was that it was a very disingenuous article, which is typical of the New York Times, typical of NPR, where they will talk around the problem, and they talk about the fact that people are addicted because of joblessness, homelessness, being unhoused, abuse, all these things, but they don't. And they kind of talk around the fact that some of this is a result of the pandemic. I would say a lot of it is a result of the pandemic, and also a lot of it has to do with the fact that these areas were hit hard originally with the implementation of um, the drug abuse that happened as a result of dumping a bunch of opiates in certain communities. And we live in one of those communities
Right.
that had a big dump of opiates that were being, given out by doctors for whatever reason whatsoever. And now you're lucky if you can get some sort of painkiller that has any trace of an opiate in it.
Right. So, two things. I want to acknowledge Age of Reason. He's been a longtime follower. They have been a longtime followers of ours on our YouTube channel, and you do bring up some really good points. And I want to acknowledge that and give that a nod. And you have our utmost respect for those comments, and anybody following on YouTube can read those comments. The second thing I want to bring up is that, ironically or unironically, just before COVID, and you brought this up the other
Mm-hmm.
day, is that suddenly Allegheny County, which is the county that we live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Suddenly,
Oh, right.
Allegheny County
Yeah.
made available to an overabundance of Narcan.
Yeah.
So, and are you guys familiar with what Narcan
So
is?
Narcan is the drug that people use to counter an overdose,
Right.
basically. And it was really very strange. All of a sudden, there was this big announcement: we're giving away Narcan downtown Pittsburgh.
They were just giving it away in
Right.
droves, and it was right before COVID, and it's almost as if they knew that drug addiction, especially in this area,
Pretty high.
known which is known for being an area that has a high concentration of drug addiction and addiction issues. It's almost as if they knew that there would be a spike in drug addiction, uh, maybe in the spring of 2020, when maybe job loss would be upon us and we'd have the biggest wealth transfer in the history of time take place.
Right.
Maybe.
Maybe.
So in what was it, like 2019? It was like
It
the
was like the
fall of
yeah, it was the autumn of
2019.
2019. Yeah.
So right again, there's that October 2019 date again. So not only do we have Event 201, and not only do we have China that wins the bid for the operations at the port of Haifa in Israel, which would then allow China to dominate the Mediterranean Sea as well as the South China Seas, which is where they're already dominating. But now we have certain communities in the United States that are known for their drug addiction suddenly getting an abundance of Narcan. So, in around the same time, it all happened around the autumn, October of 2019. So
Right.
we thought that that was uh, an interesting headline when we read it, because
Yeah.
we both read the headline back in October of 2019, and we said, "That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why are they suddenly handing out Narcan like candy?"
I think I even saw it on
You
a
know.
tweet. Right. Yeah, it
Hmm.
was very strange.
So
Somebody mentioned that huge shortages of Narcan everywhere now. Yeah, and in this story, people were getting Narcan with the other items. I mean, they were basically giving them a doggy bag of stuff. Um,
yeah,
the other thing that I really wanted to point out that they talked about in the article, that they just talked about it again. They talk around this shit. It's really irritating. That
well, it's what they do.
during the pandemic, these centers were closed. people were, handed things out of windows. So they were, some of the ones that did stay open, they did give them their materials through a window, of course, like that. And but these centers were not open for for meetings, and we talked to a couple people who have addiction issues, and they were not able to go to AA meetings or any other type of meeting because these things were all on Zoom calls, which that just is so antithetical to the what you need in this situation to help heal. And you have to be around other people to share your experiences, and to help people stay off the wagon, or off of the addicted,
Off the
off the
sauce.
sauce, or
Off the sauce, right.
or whatever materials that they're whatever they're
Whatever
taking,
it is,
right?
yeah.
So it's very it's
Now, this
it's
is
very anti-human, right? It's anti-life.
it is anti-life. It's also very exploitive.
Hmm.
We have a very good friend who is actually in the harm reduction program right now, and he is a good friend of ours. Smart and just amazing. Does really good work. At his job is a wonderful soul, and he said that he is in the harm reduction program. For his addiction issues. And I can, as a friend, I will support whatever choices he makes to help him, whatever helps him get through life. But from the position I stand, I don't necessarily agree with the idea of harm reduction as opposed to treatment, as opposed to actually doing what a person needs to do to get out of the addiction entrapment
Yeah,
scenario. You
yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So that's a good segue into some suggestions that we have for
Hmm.
people.
Yeah.
Um, we are, we try to keep our you know, online profile and and then we have our real life. We try to keep a good balance and keep a good mix. Now we have a stronger online profile, I think, than we would like, because this is how we work, this is how we earn an income. So it's important that we do have an online profile. But I think that I think we're getting hints of, I'm seeing hints of people having information overload fatigue. I think people are kind of getting into these anxiety, where anxiety is being recreated in them
Hmm.
over and over again. um,
Well,
we
yeah,
so we thought we would just say, well, what do we do, because we're not really anxious.
right.
you
There,
know
that said, I mean, I do go through bouts of anxiety here and there, but
hmm
um, we can talk about what we're doing, and then we can also talk about an audio that we did the other day. For those of you who don't follow us on Facebook, there is a Book of Hours page, and we occasionally do morning audio sessions where we kind of talk about things of interest and things that we've come across. Um,
So Don is coming up and saying that the volume is low. Um,
that's really strange
so
because
let
some.
us know if the volume is still very low. um, you know, uh, we tested the volume before we went live, and it was fine. And we even recorded ourselves and then listened back, and it was fine. So let us know.
Are you on Facebook? Yeah.
Hmm.
So one of the things that uh, that a lot of people are saying, a lot of the doctors and a lot of the pundits are saying, get out into nature, and I can't stress that enough. We are one to talk. We have not been able to get out to a park or
In a
a
while.
place for a while that now. Part of it is because the bus system here is so fashy. We don't have a car, and so getting out to our favorite park and our favorite area of that particular park has been
Challenging.
challenging, and also it's so off-putting that we've just that we just really don't feel like we want to put ourselves through that.
Let us know about the volume.
Please do, yeah. um I turned it up on the mic a little bit, and I'm speaking a little closer to the microphone and speaking louder. So please do let us know. Um, but I mean, if you do have access, and we have friends that do have access to nature, um, and whether it's a reserve or a lake or a forest or even a city park that's very forested. We used to go to Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, which is a very large park, and one of my favorite areas was the arboretum.
Hmm.
And there was a section of the arboretum that was the redwood section. And remember how we'd go in there
Hmm.
and it didn't feel like we were in a city?
Right. So one of the things that we do in order to, deal with all of this information overload is, we have our own garden. We have an urban garden. We have a huge vegetable garden in the back where he built all of the raised beds. And then we also have a flower garden in the front. And it takes a lot of work. And the best way that you can combat anxiety in your life or stress or some of this information overload is to have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Write out a list for the day, for the week, follow it. We get
Mm-hmm.
up at 6 o'clock every morning, pretty much like clockwork here and there. And he gets up and he waters the gardens, and then we sit down at breakfast maybe an hour later and we go through our day and we talk about the next video essay that we want to produce, or we talk about some of the talking points for Bookmark. We talk about some of the questions we might be asking our next guest on Pullquote, which is our interview um,
Program.
program that we
Yeah.
have on our
Well,
channel.
I wanted to speak to that, the garden
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Sure.
So, I mean, exercise, I find exercise just on its own isn't enough. So I have an exercise regimen. I stretch, and I also use a rowing machine that we have. In the past, when I was going to work, during the semester, um, I
When there
ride
was
my
a
bike
job,
when there
there's
was a
no
job.
longer a job.
I ride my bike. Okay, so we don't have a car, but I ride a bike, and I rode my bike to work, and even that really wasn't enough. And so, it's important to have something. And I think the nice thing about the garden is that it occupies your mind, but it also allows you to get into a more meditative space. It's sort of like along the lines of like walking meditation or other types of meditation that are not just about sitting.
Right.
You're occupying your mind, but you're also moving your body. And the nice thing about working in the garden was that I was thinking about other things. I was thinking in terms of like planning and uh, growing, and you're connected to life quite a bit, even though it's plant life. I think that that's a very important aspect to that experience, and it allowed me because so I was basically feeling some edges of some anxiety. I wasn't really sure what was causing it, but once I got outside and I started digging around and planting some things and pulling out other things, trimming things, whatever the case may be, watering, I started getting out of my head and I was into another place, and it allowed me to focus on something, occupy my mind, but also occupy my mind with something that was very important and engaging, that wasn't just playing games on the phone or idly looking at a video or whatever the case may be. So it's important to find that thing that you do. It can be exercise, but I think you have to mix it up, and you have to do a lot of different things, and you have to find that thing. Drawing and painting is one of those great activities. If you don't know how to draw and paint, then it's a great way to start learning.
I think that one of the things that really helps with, in the age of COVID, that's really helped us over the last year. And again, let us know about the volume. We're getting
Mixed
conflicting,
mixed messages here,
some
yeah.
people are saying it's great, some people are saying it's not. Let us know. One of the things that we do is, we understand the importance of keeping a body in motion, like he was saying. Your body will become kind of addicted to the motion. It doesn't have to be a strenuous workout. It doesn't have to be, Um, it's a 5 out of 10. I had to turn off my fan to hear you. Do you want to go turn off the? Do you want to
Yeah,
go turn off the white noise? Go turn it off.
sure. Yeah, I can go do that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna
Okay.
take care of this.
So he's gonna go do. We are at optimum, the highest level of volume that you could possibly be, in our streaming service, and everything's up as high as it can possibly go. So I'm not sure why the volume is so low on your end. Let us know. Is that better? Is that better? Let us know.
Okay.
If you could let us know if that's better, because we made a change
Okay.
with our white noise in the background. Let us know if that's better.
Okay. So what were you saying exactly?
So I'm waiting to hear back from Dawn.
Okay.
Um, so what we do is is once you get into a routine where you take that walk every day, or better. Okay, so it was the white noise.
I had a feeling it was
Thank you
too. Yeah.
so much,
Thank you.
Dawn.
Yeah.
We tested it before we went live today, and it
So
seemed to be fine.
you can turn your fan back on, but we had to turn ours off.
Right. It's basically white noise.
Yeah.
And so it's almost 100 degrees here, which is why we all of a sudden look very shiny, both of us. It's almost 100 degrees here, and we live in a 100-year-old house that's really old, and it does not have central air. So, our studio is really hot.
Yeah.
So the thing that we do to combat the stresses and the anxieties over the last year is we kind of get into these routines where we have breakfast and dinner at a certain time every day. We usually skip lunch. We take walks, we go downtown, we walk around, we try to get out to our favorite park. It's been a little difficult,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly because we've been busy.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a routine. He gets up, and so your body will get used to the motion.
I find,
And
yeah, I
you
agree.
know
Yeah, and the it's like the seven habits of successful people or whatever.
right.
I mean, you can apply some of that to what we're talking about. If you have, and it's important not to be changed to that routine as well. The thing that I like about being able to establish some sort of exercise routine and some sort of schedule for myself is that I don't have to think about it too much and I can just kind of click into it. But again, there can be that opposite side of where you become so changed to it, because I've seen people around where we live who are so changed to their habits that it's
Yeah.
almost strange to watch them operate. Um, and Julie said something about creating lists, and I have been an inveterate list maker for years. One of the things that helped me when I was running my business was to keep a journal and keep track of what I was going to do for the week. So at the beginning of the week, I would write down a list of all the things that I needed to do, and then I would organize them according to whatever day might be worth doing. Um,
Hmm.
I had a specific day where I paid bills. I had a specific day when I would do, marketing, and I had certain times where I felt the most creative because it was a creative business. Times of the day where I felt most creative when I would do that type of work. Then in the afternoon, I could do, the other types of work that didn't really require that. And I feel that, if you establish those types of, if you understand how you work, and if you don't understand, then start paying attention to how you operate when you feel the most comfortable doing certain things, when you're during the course of your day or even the course of your week. If you have a regular job that you go to, understand, try to figure out when your optimal energy is, so that you can do things like before or after work, to help mitigate the tedium, or the anxiety that comes from being in a place, or the opposite. Find the times when you can go exercise, because when we are working day to day. I worked in offices for years. I would go to the pool in the morning before I'd go to work, because it often helped me establish my day and get into a rhythm so that I could be at my best for the rest of the day.
Right. Um, so I think that what we've been witnessing here over the last year, and this is our 1 year anniversary for this show, Bookmark. So a little plug here. If you'd like to support our work, please go to YouTube and follow us. We do make video essays. We are currently working on 3 right now. The new model for the music industry. So anytime you would attend a concert, um, your experience will be a lot different than it was before March 13th of 2020. It's a little low. Thanks, Trish. And thank you for your comment. So, let me know if you can hear me a little bit better. There could be a little bit of a delay. We did fix our white noise issue. Um, so we're working on the video essay for that right now. We also have, as we mentioned earlier on in this podcast, when we started about an hour ago, we put up a list of different people that we will be hosting over the next couple of months. If you'd like to share that list again, so this has taken up quite a lot of our time as well. We're happy to do it. And JP is going to bring up the list right now. So these are all the people that are coming up in the next 2 or 3 months that we will be hosting
On Pullquote.
on Pullquote, which is our interview series. So if you'd like to support our work, we do have a Patreon page. We take one-time donations on PayPal, or you can join Rockfin. Um, and so we do have the 3 video essays that we're working on right now. One is about what your life will be like in the upcoming you know season for attending concerts, so that it'll be totally different now than what it was before. And we'll be doing a video essay about that using a lot of our original footage. And we're also going to be doing a big one about the Green New Deal. We've started the script on that. And then the third one will be the next installment for our before and after COVID series. So we have 3 series: Pullquote, which is an interview series. We have the new model, which is video essays that are creative depictions of what's happening in the fourth industrial revolution. And then we have something called before and after COVID, which is uh, it's more personal. It's something like, people from before were probably different. And now, after COVID and the vaccine language has come up, they're probably unrecognizable to you. And so we take a very good look at that. And we've already done one persona. Her name is Shelly. If you want to see that, you would become a patron. So,
or you can go to Rockfin,
right.
and become a member for $9.99 a month. You can see our premium content as well as other content creators' premium content, so you can see it there as well.
Exactly. So, we wanted to just kind of put that out there. It's been about an hour or so that we've been live. We're really looking forward to the guests that we have coming on in the future and bringing back some previous guests. Usually, as is usual, when you talk to someone, like Paul Kudinek, for instance, with Winter Oak, you have this amazing conversation, or somebody like John Stepling, you have these amazing conversations, and then when you're done, you say, "Wow, that I just scratched the surface. I
Right.
want to talk more about, this thing that we are all experiencing right now, which is becoming more and more like absurdist theater, in my opinion. I'm starting to see that all of it seems to be theater and narrative, and there doesn't really seem to be a lot of there. So this is why I caution people not to be um, paralyzed or in a hypnotic state because of what your government or your health department or what your local media channels might be telling you. Um, there's the real world, and then there's the world that's going on your screens, including social media, which is a huge influence in everyone's life, unfortunately. um, so that's why we felt it was important to talk about how we have, you know um, been able to kind of handle all this. We have this garden. I like to cook. I like to try new recipes. We take, you know, naturopathic supplements to help with like anxiety. Ashwagandha. We do a myriad of different things. We exercise. We recognize when we need to have some alone time. We
Hmm.
recognize when we need to be off of our screens.
Hmm.
We recognize when we need to be outside and meeting new people. So we have a nice, strange little
It's
balance.
important to just find a balance. I think it's
Really,
really,
the
because
balance is
it's
necessary.
fine to be on social media and it's fine to be on your screen. Um, there's some who say absolutely not. You should get off of it altogether. But
I
you know,
don't, you know,
you
I
know,
don't think so.
no, I
I
mean,
don't,
because that's
you
it's a
know,
lot of in a lot of cases it's the only way people make connections now,
right,
given the situation. But there's something to be said for reading a book, and an actual book, not an electronic one, right?
right.
So reserve time for that as well, because the and it can be anything you want, but literature is great. If you're into nonfiction, that's fine too. It expands your thinking. You make new neural connections,
Exactly. Those neural
and
connections are really important.
I agree.
Hopefully, some of the psychologists that we have coming up in the next few weeks and few months, and the doctor, we have Dr. Christian Northrup coming on as well.
Hmm.
Hopefully, they'll be able to address some of these things a little more eloquently than we can or I can. I think it's just really important. The But we wanted to dedicate this 1 year anniversary of Bookmark. We wanted to dedicate it to our patrons. Our patrons are our life force right now. We
Hmm.
don't have a job, and so we are always seeking new patrons. In the year that we've been running Bookmark, we have not yet made our Patreon goal. So even just signing up for $2 a month will help us get to that goal. But those patrons who've stayed with us this last year, we definitely want to acknowledge you. Some of you um, have become really good friends of ours,
Hmm.
and we would go the extra mile for you as you've gone the extra mile for us. So
Hmm.
we have and we've learned a lot from you. um, your your attitudes. One patron in particular is very cheery in the middle of a lot of devastating information that she tends to process and share, and has really developed a large social media presence. I noticed that she's always kind of cheery and cheerful, and she's always telling people to stay positive, or not telling them to stay positive, but just being there for people.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Just a nice lady, nice person. And all of our patrons have these really unique characteristics and
Hmm.
qualities which helped us define our
Well,
channel.
what our
You know,
last bookmark, we ended with a song, and that was one of our patrons as well. And we wanted
right,
to. He sent that to us, and we liked it enough. We were like, can we share this? And he agreed.
right.
So that was cool, and people do share things with us as well. So it's really we've established new relationships as a result of this, and we're glad that we have this community on Patreon, where we get people will contact us on Patreon, with comments and ideas and questions and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot, and
It's true.
they'll
Yeah.
share videos and things like that. So it's good to to have that. So if you would like to be part of our community, and I mean, we obviously we answer emails and we answer comments on other areas, but it's nice to hear from our patrons, in especially in that context. Something else that I wanted to mention is there's other content that's on Patreon, that's not even on Rockfin yet, and that is that Julie has been writing a series, and it's a story. It's it could become a novel or a
We'll see.
novella. We'll see. But I mean,
Maybe
basically,
Netflix will pick it up. I'm just kidding.
but it's a it's serialized story, and who knows, because A Christmas Carol was serialized.
That's true, right?
So, but anyway, and it's really interesting. It's a fiction, but it's taking place in post Great Reset.
Right.
So it's really, and I've been enjoying it as well. So if
Thanks.
you would like, yeah, and we've received some positive comments. So if you want to start reading this as well, please, you can become a patron for as little as $2 a month, and that's a real drop in the bucket.
And it'll help us get closer to our goal, which we haven't made yet.
Yeah.
We're about ready to start start selling tomatoes on the side of the road.
The tomatoes are still green, but as soon as they come ripe, we might have to resort to that.
Right. So please become a patron. And we also wanted to, use this opportunity, in the 1 year anniversary of Bookmark, to talk about some of the things that are going on outside of the Great Reset and outside of, the COVID, which is the prevailing narrative, which has kind of gripped everybody and put everyone into an hypnotic state. There is, there's a potentiality for a hot war right around the corner. And there's other things that are going on too. And we're coming up on the 90-minute mark. So what I'd like to do is play Cory Morningstar. She is a regular contributor to John Stepling's Ascetic Resistance, which is an audio that you can find on SoundCloud. And she is kind of what aesthetic resistance is. What I like about it is that you've got artists, you've got playwrights, you've got people from all over the world offering sort of a philosophical take and an ideological take on what's happening in in the world today. And then you have Cory Morningstar, who recognizes everything that's happening and then says, and here is how they are doing it. Here is what they are doing. And she shared something so profound and so important that we want to put it, we want to end this bookmark with that audio. And after we play the audio, we'll come back and say goodbye.
Okay.
But
all right.
we want to share it.
Let's let it roll here.
A lot of stuff goes missed. Like Prince of Wales launches the Terra Carta. It's called Terra Carta. And this is just new this year. And again, a lot of stuff that just because everyone's hypnotized by COVID, so much of this is happening with no oversight. And so the Prince of Wales in January launched a 10-point pandemic recovery charter that challenges businesses to put, quote, nature, people, and planet at the heart of global value creation over the next decade. And then it's backed by scores major corporate high-profile names such as Unilever, BP, and BlackRock. And so it's a 17-page framework that sets out 100 broad actions for businesses to harness the resources and innovation, right? And it's like basically they call it the basis of the recovery plan, right? Which ties in everything with COVID. And this is all about, again, this is all about the replacing GDP effectively with the financialization of nature, social capital, human capital. Okay, so this is happening. No one's watching. No one gives a fuck. Sorry, someone asked me not to swear, so I try not to, but that slipped out. There's a paragraph I wanted to read here. One of the key actions initiated earlier this year is the creation of a natural capital investment alliance to help develop a quote unquote common language for natural capital investing, with a target to drive 10 billion of capital allocation in this direction by 2022. So they're looking for basically $50 to $100 trillion, around $6 trillion a year, into like basically saving the capitalist system from collapse by commodifying nature and every kind of capital that they can, including humans, like I said, social capital. And then it goes on to say it aims to expand the flow of natural capital investment through corporate offsetting and carbon pricing. And that's being spearheaded by founding partners HSBC, Pollination, Climate Asset Management, and then some others. So this is just happening really, really quickly. It's being put into place. It'll all be put into place by at COP26 this year. And again, you know, no one's watching. We're all just mesmerized, hypnotized by the propaganda.
All right.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So down.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So that was Cory Morningstar. If you're not following her, please do. If you're not following her, please do. It's El Provocateur on Twitter. You can go to Wrong Kind of Green and read all of the research that she's done over the years. It's years and years of very well sourced research. And that last statement that she made, which was part of the latest aesthetic resistance podcast, was just chilling. I mean, turning the GDP into human capital,
Mm-hmm.
basically turning us all into a slave market in order to financialize nature and whatever else. So these are things that we've been ignoring, you know, and we're guilty of it too over here on this platform. But we collectively, the human race, has been ignoring what's just around the corner. It's she said 2022. We are now in, you know, in the middle of 2021. So 2022 is only in 6 months. So there should be a sense of urgency around this. The protesting and the anger at the lockdowns and the anger at the, you know, the targeting of the middle class and the lower classes is justifiable, of course, but what's coming next is terrifying, even more than COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important that we pay attention to that.
And the propaganda that's going to be coming at us via the green agenda, or I don't like to use the word agenda in this case. I think it's more like it's more like a narrative that's coming at us. And something that Cory Morningstar says often is that the people who are pushing that narrative are often, they never talk about how the military is responsible for so much of the pollution and so much of the so-called carbon emissions and use of fuel, and they use more oil and fuel than any other entity in the world, the U.S. Military, and so it's a very a very disingenuous narrative and push to put all of us, uh, you know, into basically immiserate the rest of us, while the billionaires get away with, taking money from us. The military continuing their use of tons of fuel and spewing pollution. And something else before we go, something that you brought up to me yesterday, and it goes along with this, is that the UN, along with their agenda for the 21st century and agenda 2030, mentioned the reduction of affluence and lifestyle in the United States. And certainly, we can all, learn to cut back, and we've had to cut back as a result of the pandemic and such. Um, and something that we say oftentimes is that we live a life that somebody else has to pay for. So people in the global South have to pay via pollution in their community, or something to do with oil, or energy extraction or mineral extraction. Their life gets denigrated, and they become immiserated because of our lifestyle.
The latest iPhone upgrade.
Right. Now, certainly that is taking place, but what this is taking that and weaponizing it against people, who, because even the poorest people in the United States live a better life than some of the people in the global south.
Right.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's we understand that. And at the same time, however, these same people who are pushing this agenda of reducing the affluence and the lifestyle in the United States are the same people that are fine with, you know, marketing the latest Apple iPhone or the latest,
Right.
you know, Android phone, and, you know, pushing the cars and pushing the lifestyle, and you know, building new houses and all these things that take so many so many materials and things that you know, hurt other people. So you're getting it from both sides, and it's a very, again, disingenuous thing. So the other problem is that they're doing this to cause problems. They're going to cause arguments and fights between, you know, people who support, you know, her, saying, how dare they say that, you know, we have a lifestyle and we've had it for years and blah blah blah. Okay, right. So you can take a very reactionary position, but I think that what we need to recognize is that these are things being said to us for a reason, and it's not to take away our car. Okay, that's
Right.
just so it's more about creating more disharmony, more
Right.
you know, splintering among people in the society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's, you know, something that we will continue to explore in our video essays. There are video essays that are not available to the public. They are only on Rockfin and Patreon. So please support our work there so that you can have access to them. And we address some of these very topics that we talk about in very creative ways. And so, you know, I think we should go ahead and leave it at that.
Okay. We'll leave it there.
We want to thank everybody for joining today and helping us with, you know, letting us know about the sound. Obviously, the video seems to be okay. We're having some censorship issues, but we haven't been taken down completely. But we're having what I just call censorship issues
Right.
with those social media algorithms.
Thanks,
and,
Facebook.
and things like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. But what we'll do is we'll pin this to the top of our art and community page on our Facebook channel. We will have it available for YouTube to watch at a later time. And of course, we've been streaming on Periscope as well for our Twitter followers.
And it's been streaming on Rockfin as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do want to give shout outs to Nevermore and Essex,
South Essex Heckler.
the South Essex Heckler, and also Winter Oak for sharing our work and sharing my tweets. We are, you know, we are not, how should I say? We're not very popular. And sometimes that's a good thing. But the people that do share our work are very popular, and the people that do talk to us have been able to establish a very good reputation with their followers. So we feel that it's quality, not necessarily quantity, that matters.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about our patrons, and that's how I feel about those of you who have donated. The quality of friendship and connections that we've made is amazing over the last year. This has been an incredible journey so far, and I know that we will have more video essays coming in the future. Right now, we seem to be pulled in quite a few different directions with our interview series, and of course, the garden is takes up a lot of time.
It does, yeah.
But we got to eat, and we eat out of our garden. So so anyway, I appreciate, you know, everybody. So we will see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
with Lynn Taylor.
So that's 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Okay?
Great. See you
right.
then.
All right. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Book of Hours are artists here to empower and embolden your response to the constant negative sound bites that attack your news and social media feeds. In order to continue making the video essays and art you've come to enjoy, we need your support. Make a one-time donation or become a patron. Thank you.